See, in the old days, if it was genes, okay, your genes carry over, you got the genes, you got the problem. There's nothing you can do about it. Epigenetics is an adjustment of the reading, and you can adjust it yourself. So you're not really a victim when you understand it. If you don't understand it, you appear to be a victim of, oh my God, I'm just, fate is against me. And it's like, that's not true.
What do you think?
The biggest danger of today's time is the lack of knowledge about how we operate, that the public has no awareness of. That phrase, knowledge is power. And I go, yeah, and I go, there's a more important take on it. It's like a lack of knowledge is a lack of power. And the amazing lack of knowledge about how we work as biological organisms is disempowering people, because people feel they're victims of genes, chromosomes, proteins, bugs, germs, whatever. And it's like, that is the farthest thing from the truth. They are masters of it. But if they believe they're victims, then by definition, that belief will express itself. And that's what they experience. Because the evolution that we're talking about, number one, is not a physical evolution, it's a consciousness evolution. And number two, which is very critical about this, is that it's based on being informed. What's interesting is I wrote a book about this called Spontaneous Evolution, which is based on the Biology of Belief. Biology of Belief book comes down to a very simple fact. The life we experience is not a coincidence or an accident, but we are participating and creating it and unfolding it. So we're not just recipients of life, we're manifestors, creators of life. And when you understand the biology of belief, you understand how you can use your beliefs and issues like that to create the most wonderful life, healthy and happy and everything. As a matter of fact, the last book I just wrote is called The Honeymoon Effect. And it's a very interesting book, because basically what it says is this: no matter how crappy your life might be up to the moment you meet this one special person, and that person blows your mind, and you're falling in love head over heels and stuff like that, I say, to the minute you fell in love, the moment you fell in love, your life changed. You got healthier. You had tremendous amounts of energy. That beginning love, that jolt, that really was amazing. And I call it the honeymoon effect. It turns out this is not an accident or coincidence. This is a personal manifestation. The Biology of Belief book talks about that our mind is creating our life. We have two aspects to our mind: the conscious mind, which is the one connected to you as a personal, unique individual. The conscious mind has your identity. It's the seat of your spirituality, your source. That's where you are, the conscious mind. Conscious mind is a sort of a reflex mind, stimulus response mind. Basically, animals live in an environment, and the stimuli out there push the button, and then they make responses. The conscious mind is creative mind. And so this is what separates humans from a lot of lower organisms, is that not only do we react to the world around us, but we can create from our awareness. And then all of a sudden you see, look what we created. This came from the conscious mind's ability to create. And as a creator mind, the creative mind, the conscious mind, has your wishes and desires, So I say, Amir, man, tell me, what do you want from your life? And whatever you offer as an answer, you have to recognize this is a creative answer, because you're projecting into the future what you would like. It's not your life right now. It's like what I want. So that's a characteristic of the creative life. And also recognize this: the creative mind is the source of your wishes and your desires and your aspirations. So those things that you want from life are based in the conscious mind. The subconscious mind is like a database where you push the button and it plays a program. It's habits, primarily habits. And so that you, from your life experiences, you learn how to make a response or to do something. You don't have to relearn it every time if it repeats itself, because if it's something that repeats itself, then by habit, you learn the program. It's downloaded as a program. It's push the button, play the program. So the conscious mind is creative. The subconscious mind is habitual, plays habits. Now, here's the issue, and here's the problem that every one of us in the world, including myself, have to deal with and have to know about to be empowered to take your life. And that it goes like this: your wishes, desires, aspirations, function. The issue is that the conscious mind is also, and this is where the monkey wrench is thrown in, the conscious mind can think. Well, the point is, the moment you're thinking, by definition, you're not paying attention. So in other words, you don't stop everything you're doing when you have a thought. You're walking down the street, you have a thought, and all of a sudden you freeze and you wait for the thought to clear, then you get back engaged again. It's seamless. The moment the conscious mind is in thought, the behavior is by default controlled by the subconscious seamlessly. So whatever you were doing, you could be paying attention to it. Let's say your job, whatever it is you're doing on your job, you're having a thought. All of a sudden, your conscious mind goes up in a thought. You don't stop your job. You continue doing the job, but that's your job. That's your behavior. That's programmed. That you know how to do that. And so basically it says, now here's the issue. 95% of the day, our conscious mind is thinking. It comes down to a very simple fact. You're only controlling your neurobiology, your cognitive behavior. You're only controlling it 5% of the time with your wishes and your desires, your positive thoughts, your aspirations. 5% you're in control. The reason is 95% of the time you're thinking, so you went onto the automatic subconscious program. And then I go, and so what's wrong with that? And here's what's wrong with it. Analogy time again. Consider an iPod as the mind, and that the click wheel on the front, the wheel on the front is the conscious mind, because you can make a creative playlist. It's creative. You can pick out what you want, push the button and play it. So the click wheel is the conscious mind. And I say, okay, you get a brand new iPod, take it out of the box. And I say, okay, push play. And nothing plays. And everybody looks at you like, you idiot. You obviously didn't download any, play anything. So now I go, interesting analogy for the simple reason. Consciousness is the ability to be creative. Consciousness without any data has no function. If there's no data to be conscious of, then consciousness doesn't have a role. So during our development, the first 7 years of our lives, our brain function is predominantly, when you talk about EEG, electroencephalograph, putting wires on your head, our brain function is primarily in theta. That's a lower vibration than consciousness. Consciousness is alpha. So you're not really being conscious at this point. But it's interesting because you're participating in a world that theta is like imagination. And this is why children, especially between 2 and 7, are constantly mixing the real world and the imaginary world together because their mind is operating at that frequency. But here's the other point. Theta is hypnosis. And so why is that relevant? It says the first 7 years of your life is downloading programs of how to respond to life, how to behave, how to make relationships, how to do your job, how to have love for yourself or not to be loved for yourself or whatever. Who you are, programming comes in first 7 years. How do you do it? You don't have to do anything. Your mind is predominantly in theta. You observe your mother, your father, your family, your community. You observe them. There are things called mirror neurons in the brain that can take other people's behaviors and actually have you get a feeling and experience of it. So using the mirror neurons, you observe how your parents or your family, how they respond to the world, how they respond to each other. And what you're doing is you're not putting any conscious effort into it. Conscious is not even working yet. You're downloading. And I say, well, why is that relevant? And we can tie this thing in a circle. Your subconscious programs, your basic programs in life and how to deal with life are not from you. They're not from your wishes or your desires. They were programmed into you by your family and your culture and your community. And this becomes relevant because then when you default into the subconscious, the primary way you deal with life is not the way you would deal with life. It's the way that other people dealt with life. And so you're not even living your own life. And here comes then the second part of the same big problem. Because you play the default subconscious programs when your mind is thinking, then by definition, your consciousness rarely observes your subconscious behavior, because it's only playing when your consciousness is thinking. And so basically, then you're not seeing your own behavior. And that's where the problem comes from. 95% of the day, we're playing programs that are not coming from our wishes and desires. The significance is that only 5% of the time are we creating a life based on our wishes and desires. And 95% of the time, we're just replaying a life that has been programmed into us by other people and passed from family to family down generations. And all of a sudden you realize you're not living your life. You're living a program. So the resolution, put it back into the matrix, is okay, you're running this program and you're playing these behaviors that you don't see, and if they're not supportive, and psychology will tell you 70% or more of these developmental programs are limiting, sabotaging, disempowering. So it says 70% of your programs that you're not paying attention are sabotaging yourself, and you don't see it. And all of a sudden you say, why is that relevant? I go, well, I wake up in the morning with, I'm going out there to get a great job, and I'm going to find a great romance, and I'm going to be healthy. That's what I want. You come home 5 o'clock, tail between your legs, dragging your ass in, going, geez, another day. I never got to where I was going. And then you have to look at it and say, well, what's the problem? The problem is, according to the way you just responded to life, it's not me. I had the great wishes and desires to be successful. And so I'm a victim of circumstances, the universe, fate, nature. I'm a victim because I wanted to have all these positive things, and look what I ended up with. And then all of a sudden I say, yeah, but wait, you only were operating 5% of the time moving towards your positive destination, and 95% of the time you were playing self-sabotaging limiting programs that you didn't see. So all of a sudden it turns out we're not victims. We created the crap, but we didn't have any awareness of it. We didn't know we were doing it. It's invisible. We didn't see it. And we didn't know that our behavior in those invisible periods were programmed by other people. And so tie it back in, last piece. Everything you wanted is in front of your face. Why would you let your mind wander? Everything is right there. And guess what? Now you're operating from consciousness. Yeah, which, guess what? Wishes and desires. The screw up in my life is the programming, not my wishes and desires, but I didn't see I was programmed, and I didn't know that this was occurring 95% of the time. And when we start to understand this and recognize you can change the programming, then all of a sudden it says, how about it if you rewrote your subconscious programs and put in the wishes and desires as your programs instead of whatever you learned from your family and from school and your teachers and all that other crap that really threw junk into your head? What if you put all those wonderful things in your head? And then here's the secret solution when that happens. That when you're conscious, you're living your wishes and desires and your aspirations. If you change the program in your subconscious so that there are always programs of wishes and desires, then that means whether you're paying attention or you're not paying attention, but if you change the subconscious programming, you'll have a honeymoon every day of your life. The conscious mind, as a creative mind, can learn in any number of ways. Listening to you and I talk on this program, so that means, guess what? Our conscious minds are super educated. I go, well, what about the subconscious mind? Well, this has been the problem, because for years we said the two minds are part of one. So with the intention that if I educate the conscious mind, I automatically have educated the subconscious mind. It goes, that's where the problem comes from. The subconscious mind is not a creative mind. It does not learn in mind learns. So whatever process you use to advance the awareness in your conscious mind, read the self-help book. Yeah, I'll give you a test. Guess what? Your conscious mind will get the answers right. You get 100. And I say, okay, now that you've read the book, I know you understand it. You got 100 on the test. Did your life change? And the answer is no. And I'll tell you why. Because you only affected the mind that works 5% of the time. In the process, the 95% standard controlled habitual mind never changed, because it doesn't change that way. So since it runs your life 95% of the time, you read the self-help book, you educated the conscious mind, but your life is still exactly the same. And so now the question is, you want to rewrite the subconscious? Oh, now you're talking, because it operates in a different way. So how do you teach, or how does the subconscious mind learn? Well, first, let me give you the two basic ways it learns, because these are natural. These are in nature. This is the way it works. First 7 years, as I mentioned, the brain is in a low EEG vibrational frequency called theta, which is hypnosis. So, the first 7 years of learning, you didn't have to even work at it. All you had to do was just be there like a video camera with your lights on, and you recorded everything. You learned everything just by observing it. You didn't have to work at it. It went down. It went right in. Okay, so basically hypnosis. You want to change it? You can use hypnosis. One of the easiest ways of using hypnosis to change your life is to buy what are called subliminal tapes, which are tapes that you put earphones on, and at night as you're going to bed, you put the earphones on as you're going to bed, and what happens is very simply this. The theta vibration, which is below the vibration of consciousness, which is alpha or focused consciousness, beta, higher vibrations. Theta is just below alpha, but below theta is the lowest one called delta. Delta is sleep. So well, here's the point. You're awake, and then you go to bed and you go to sleep. Well, what happens as you start to go to sleep, the vibrations of the brain start to slow down. First, the beta calms down to calm consciousness, alpha, as you're calming down before going to bed. And then it goes through a period of theta on its way to delta. So there's a period as you're starting to go off into twilight reverie where the mind is in theta. So it says, well, guess what? If you're putting the earphones on and you put on the tapes with messages to support what you want, then basically, as you're going to sleep, you're reprogramming at night by downloading data into the subconscious mind using subliminal tapes. So that's one way of changing it. Okay. Number two, after 7, how does the subconscious mind learn? And the answer, primarily everything you learned after 7 was based on repetition. You had to practice. You had to repeat things. You had to repeat the alphabet over and over again. The times table. How many times? 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 4 is 8. Blah, blah, blah. You had to repeat that so you could learn it for school. Guess what? Repeat it. You created a habit. That's what habituation is all about. Things that you repeat long enough, the mind will automatically make that the program, so you don't have to repeat it. You got to do a repetition, something you practice. And that will then lead to a point where you practice it so frequently, the mind is downloaded. Now you don't have to practice. It's automatic behavior. Okay, that's the second way. These take time. The subliminal and the habituation practice take a little bit of time. For generations, you want to talk about changing the program. So we were just getting into the 2 fundamental ways, because the subconscious learns by A, hypnosis, B, habituation, and C, and this is the cool one, Amir, this is the great one. There are new processes called belief change modifications or energy psychology. And if anybody goes, they want to go to my website, brucelipton.com, under resources, there's a listing of these modalities. And what's important about them is this. Listen to this. It's a form of super learning where you can rewrite a subconscious belief in about 5 to 10 minutes.
Wow.
If you like Succeed with Knowledge, subscribe and give us a thumbs up. And thanks a million. Cheers.